Hey guys, welcome to Get in the Mix and our latest video on the American DJ MyDMX Go. Now, MyDMX Go is the latest lighting interface from the guys at American DJ, and it's a great way to control your lights from an iPad, an Amazon Fire, an Android tablet, just anything with a tablet and the right version of the software running on that. There's a huge range of these tablets that work with it. So as I said, most of the Amazon Fires, Android, any of the Android tablets running over a certain version, and any of the iPads, mostly in the last kind of 4 years or so. Some of the very early ones don't quite support it, but the majority of today's ones do. The reason MyDMX Go is so great is that it gives you a really great interface and way to control your lights from just an iPad. You don't have to have a whole nother dedicated machine or extra computer running that software, and you don't have to have the old school DMX controllers. Now, DMX is a pretty complicated subject. I know a lot of the guys that come into the store have a look at it for a little bit and just give up. It's a real minefield, to be honest. And to just give you a basic rundown, obviously DMX is a communication protocol for controlling lights. Now, each different light has its own unique DMX address, which is essentially a label that defines it as a certain number, and has different channel modes that it runs in. Now, let's take this light here, American DJ Mega Tripart Profile Plus. Now that runs in 2 different channel modes. It runs in, I think, 9 and 7. Now what that means is that, let's say for instance we were having it on a 7-channel mode. The first channel might be master dimmer, which is just the overall brightness. The second channel might be red. The third channel might be green. The fourth channel might be blue, so forth and so on. And what these channels allow us to do, if you had an old controller, like a proper conventional DMX controller, as you pulled the fader of channel 1 up, that would be the overall brightness. You'd still have nothing at first, but then if you put red up, you'd have red at full brightness. You could introduce some green and some blue, you could mix those colors together. So the channels can be viewed as the different parameters of a light that can be controlled. Now, for the most part, we'll always use the highest channel mode because it gives us the most amount of channels, and therefore gives us the most amount of control that we can have over those lights. Now, this video is going to be mainly setup and kind of introduction purposes. I have a lot of people come into the shop and ask me, oh, how do I set it up? I bought MyDMX Go, I don't quite understand it. And I thought, well, let's make a video and we can just pass the video on to anyone who wants to have a look at it. Of course, it's not just for people that come into the shop. If you're just someone, you know, out there on the internet looking for a little bit of help, it's here for you as well. We'll just crack on with that. So, the first thing to note is that the box, when you buy the American DJ MyDMX Go, all you're actually buying is this interface. The software is downloadable for free via the App Store, the Amazon Play Store, the normal iPad store, various different stores. You just download that onto your system and it's ready to go. The first thing I will note is that the instructions do not come inside the box. So I've had some people buy it, come to me like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. And my first reaction is, have you downloaded the instructions? But that, guys, is the first point of call for any product. It really should be, you know, before we come out scratching your heads, banging your head against the wall, asking other people, sending messages here, there and over, check the instructions out, because genuinely it is the first port of call, and for the most part is a pretty good way of learning. I mean, I had no idea how to use this. I sat down with the instructions for a few hours and then just kind of got around it and started learning the interface. Now, the instructions, the reason they haven't printed them is because, as you might think, they are quite large. You know, there's about 32 pages here. Now, of course, a lot of those pages are just safety instructions and specification information and whatnot, but there's a lot of great information in here and will really help you get started on your system. Today we're using the iPad to control it, and I think the first step will be to look at how to load fixtures in. So I'm going to head over and create a new project just for demonstration purposes. I'm just going to call this one, I reckon, demo. So we'll exit out that demo, and for this purpose, so I can show you how to load them in, I'm going to tell it to not keep the fixtures and not keep the presets. Now, if you'd already had a project set up and you were then looking to create another project, perhaps you've got a setup where you run lights for a smaller venue and you don't bring all your lights, you bring a certain subset of them, or even a larger venue and you bring more of your lights, you might have different setups planned and programmed on here. Now if I wanted to then just keep the same fixtures and bring them into a new project, I could just keep that on keep fixtures. But for now I'm going to completely wipe that off and we're going to click create. You'll notice that the lights reset, they're not receiving any information because I've not told it to talk to any lights. Now the first thing we'll be doing is click on the menu and you have live and the fixture section. We're going to be working first in the fixtures section. So we'll load this up. Now along the bottom here you can see you've got brand, device and mode. We simply click on brand and we find our brand of lighting. So today I've got a couple of American DJ lights down here and an Equinox light, so I'm going to just head over to American DJ. And it comes up with a full list of lights there. We've got 2 Mega Tripod Profile Pluses there, so I'm going to head over to M by clicking on the shortcut on the side there. I'm going to scroll down until I find Mega Tripod Profile Plus. Now what you might notice is that the Tripod Profile Plus there has got a little green dot next to it. Now what that means is that I have already downloaded the fixture information for that fixture. However, if it has a red dot next to it, that means you haven't as of yet downloaded that information. And to do so, all you need to do is make sure you're connected on your pad to the internet and click on the light, and it will then instantly download that fixture information and store it for recall later on. I'm just going to click on the Tripod Profile Plus there. The final setting to look at is mode. Now mode is reference to our channel mode, and in this case, I got slightly wrong on this, it's 4, 5, 6, 9 and 10 channel modes that this has. We're going to pop it onto 10 channel mode, so I can have the most amount of control over those lights. Now when I add that fixture in, that's placed that on DMX fixture 001. Now I would then repeat that process for all of my fixtures. So I would add another one because I've got another Tripod Profile Plus in here. I'd then head into the settings, find the Inno Pocket spot for this one and the Equinox Fusion spot Mark II for this one. Once I've loaded all those in, it will have defined me an address for each one, and I want to then go round to my lights and match that. So I see here the first Tripod Profile Plus is on 1, and we know it's in 10 channel mode. So I'll head to the back of my light, which I will just flip around for you here. As you can see here, you've got D001, sorry, D0011, which means that is programmed and ready to run DMX address 11. Now for ADJ lights, you hold mode for, I believe, 3 seconds to unlock the fixture, and I could change that up and down to set the setting. I'm going to leave it on 11, I'm going to press setup, then ask me which channel mode we're running in, which in this case is 10 channel mode, setup again, and twice more to finalize that, and that fixture is then programmed in and ready to go. So we would then repeat that again for each of our lights, making sure they're all programmed in the right way. Now, in true Blue Peter fashion, I'm going to pull out one that I've done earlier, and I'm going to head over to my project 1. And you'll notice that those lights instantly started reacting to that. Now I'm going to head over to the live section, and for now I'm going to press off, which turns those lights off for a second. So I'll press it on to make it run, and I'll press this button here, which is the freeze button. Now if I want the freeze to continue, I simply drag outside of that circle and release, and you'll notice there's now an orange circle around the freeze logo, which means that it's going to stay frozen in its current mode. One final thing we will look at in the fixture area is that you might notice along here we've got these faders for each of the lights. Now if I head over to the pocket spot, remember we discussed earlier the channels for each light? These are the different channels. So in the case of this pocket spot, channel 1 is pan. Now if I click on that, you can see as I move the fader down, we move the light back and forth. We then can do the same for tilt and move back and down. We've got control over that light. Now you be sure whenever you override any of these settings, that is going to stop the live system sending information to that. So we need to make sure that when I'm done with that, I click on the reset button, which resets the fader. Now we could do that for all the faders, including colors, tilt, brightness, all sorts of things, and you can give us kind of a conventional DMX control over individual features if we wanted. So now we've positioned all our fixtures, you might notice that instantly mine were talking to each other, and that's because I was already connected up to the MyDMX Go box here. Now this box is, as I said, all you're going to get when you purchase your box, and in it comes this just detached, there's a little screw-on antenna, a USB plug for powering the unit, and as you can see on the front here, 2 DMX output connections. Now these connections are what run our DMX universe. Now out of the box you get access to just one of those universes. You have access to this one. However, you can head to the Smart DMX website, whose address is listed in the instruction, and in fact we'll post it maybe around here somewhere in the video for you to come out and check. But you can head that and you can then purchase access to the second universe to enable yourself to route even more lights into your setup. But for the most part, and most casual users and mobile users, you'll probably find you've got enough channels in the one system to run all the lights you need to. Now, in order for the iPad to talk to the device, it connects to it via Wi-Fi. Now, don't let that mistake you for thinking that you need to have internet connection whilst you're running your show, because that's not strictly true. This box here actually hosts its own wireless network, and you connect to that wireless network from your device. So if I head to the settings section on my iPad, and then in turn head over to the Wi-Fi section, you'll see that I'm connected to the Smart DMX interface. Now the first time you connect to that interface, you will be prompted for a password. That password again is in the instruction manuals, and it is Smart DMX 0000. But be sure to check your instructions just in case it changes at any point and this becomes outdated. But as I said, you will be prompted for that the first time, and at that point you'll be able to reconnect as many times as you like. Now once you are connected to that, you'll notice that in the menu on the side here, that if I click it, you can see listed there MyDMX Go. However, if I had disconnected, that MyDMX Go there wouldn't be listed, and I simply need to click refresh until the MyDMX Go interface is visible. I can then click on that interface and away we go. Now I'm going to move over to the live section so we can have a look at how to control the lights and how they run. So this software was originally designed by a team called Dazzlight, and there are a few different iterations of this software. It's been licensed in this case by MyDMX and incorporated into their own interface. So there are a few other versions. You could download the Light Rider version. It looks almost identical, except for it says Light Rider at the top instead of MyDMX Go. They've broken down this software into moves, colors, and special effects. You'll see the moves on the left-hand side, the colors on the right hand side, and the special effects in the middle. You've also then along the bottom got up preset sections for up to 55 presets, and at the top here an auto section with a strobe and a dimmer. I'm going to unfreeze my units. Now you'll notice as I bring down the dimmer that the light on my units goes out, and now there's no light. I can bring that back up. I can also access what's called the sub dimmer, and here again I have access to my group of tripod profile pluses. I can bring the bring the brightness of those down, and in turn we can bring the brightness of my individual spots down. We're going to keep those back up for now because of course we want them running, and I'm going to click back on freeze so they stop chatting around. Lovely job. So back to what I was saying, we've got moves and colors. Now on the left hand side we've got it broken down into various different preset movements that they have defined and that moving heads can kind of capably do. In this case I'm going to click this arrow icon, that means stop. So now these moving lights are no longer moving. However, if I click on this circle with an arrow at either side, these are going to spin and do a circle. So I'm going to click on the circle and spin, and you'll notice that they're spinning round nicely. Now I do have shift. The shift option is in reference to how in unison they run. So at the moment I believe they're running opposite. If I click on shift and go down to 0, you'll notice that they're doing the exact same movement but in opposite. So you can work out how you want to shift their movements. Do you want them to be in time with each other or out of time with each other? Now we've also got, next to that, we've got a sweep, which is going to perform a general sweep around a room. We've got an up and down, we've got a side to side, and we've got a ducking, a swimming, and a randomization. Now these are all different types of movements that we can get our lights to perform. Now you might notice that inside each of one of these settings, in the inner circle, we have the sub parameters of that control. So if I head over to circle, I've got speed. Now at the moment the speed is going based on a BPM timing, so I need to give it a time signature. In this case, if I put it up to 32, these boys will go really slow. I mean, that is deadly slow. So I'll probably whack that onto 8. Now you notice that at the moment is in a time signature based mode, because we are telling it up here with this little purple button that we're controlling and monitoring that via BPM information. In this regards, coming from this tapper at the top. So if I tap faster, the lights will increase and then kind of be going in time with whatever you're playing. I can simply click there, and now you'll notice that they have got a microphone symbol on there, which means they're going to run taking information from the microphone on the laptop and running their sound to lights. Again, I can click that on, and we have just time based, which if I go to my speed is now a percentage based bar, where this movement is the most speed and down to the bottom is the slowest speed. Now you have these sub parameters for each of your controls. So not only do we have speed, but we also have size. So the size of the movement. Do I want that movement to be at the fullest range it can be, or do I want to limit that movement down to a smaller size? And you'll see that they now don't move as much. Now, as I said, for each of these movements, we have a different set of sub parameters, normally based around speed, size, shift, and sometimes fan. That is the basic way in which to control the movement of your lights. Then on the flip side, we've got the color wheel on the left. Now you will notice that again, we've got all these logos. Now, trying to get your head around exactly what these logos represent, that's a bit of a guessing work. Now, we've got this one here, which has got, you see, 2 white circles at the end with arrows going out. Now, if we had multiple lights, these would be going, multiple park hands, the lights would go 1, 2, 3, 4, and kind of move that way. If I popped it on the other one, it would then in turn do the opposite of that. We don't have the right amount of lights, and I haven't told it the order that we're running them in, so at the moment they're just flashing different colors. We've got this car symbol, we've got a rainbow symbol, what seems to be a disco ball, a fairground, a sparkler, and a stop, which just stops your colors. Again, for each of these we have sub parameters to control them. So if I head over to this one, we've got the rainbow effect. And if I put the speed right up, you'll see that they speed through those light changes really quick. We've then also got the fade option. So at the moment it's on 100% fade. If I pop it down to 0%, you'll notice that they just flash directly from one color to the other. With the fade in, they fade nicely between those colors. We'll pop the speed down, and now those just going to run nice and slowly, fading in and out of those different colors. Below that wheel, you might see this little color wheel. Now this is actually how we select the colors that the devices are going to use. Now at the moment we've got this wedge type system around the edge, and we've got these dots in the middle. Now the wedge system is the color of your single color lights, so your moving heads and such. You'll notice I've got it on green. If I pop blue on there, we've got 1 green, 1 blue. But we'll pop them both for blue for now, and they've got them running on a blue. Now inside here we've got small circles. These represent your color chasers, and these are essentially the colors that your park hands are going to do. So you might notice there I've got a green dot, and now these park hands are flashing green each time. If I double click there, I can add a blue one in, and you'll notice that it's green, then blue. If I double click again, I can add another one in, and you'll notice that it's green, blue, then pink. So these are the way in which you add your color chasers to your lights. In the middle section here, we've got the special effects, which include a smoke machine button for if you had a smoke machine connected up to your system in the DMX, a blackout, which just continues the movements that they would be doing, but blacks the lights out, a wow effect, which does a build up of lights flashing until they get to a crescendo. Now that's great for build-ups before a drop and such. We then have this blinder effect, which, if we have the fixtures and their limitations set correctly, forces all the lights to point forward and at their fullest brightness to kind of create a full bright effect across the dance floor. Now you might notice that these two moving heads move to the left, and that's because I haven't set the limitations. Now we'll go over what limitations are in just a moment. I'll just explain these last two buttons here. Sorry, this last button, which I've used already, is the freeze button. You'll notice that whatever color they were on and whatever movement and position they were in, they froze. Now for all of these special effects, you can enable them permanently by pressing the button, dragging outside the circle, and now we see that orange circle around there means they're going to stay there until I come back and tell it to come off that. Below that, you'll notice that we've got the gobo section. Now I've pointed my inner pocket spot at the wall here so that you guys can see the gobo action at home. If I click on gobo, then we can see all the gobos that are displayed for both my units. Now I'm just going to look at this one for now, and I'm going to pop gobo number 3 on. What we do have is various different options to control, including the brightness of that, the roll, the zoom, and if it is supported by it, the prism effect, which not all lights are, but as you can see, I click in there, I can change that gobo, and we've got a different shape there. All of these functions combined together is what kind of allows you to design and create your show. Now, I mentioned earlier about the limitations of your lights to make sure that they point in the right direction. Now that is something that I perhaps should have mentioned at the beginning, because it is a setup thing. So with the fixtures, if I click on my inner pocket spot and then to this little one in the corner, we have the limitations. Now what this means is that we can tell the lights essentially where our dance floor is going to be, because we've all been there where you're DJing away, you've got lights maybe just running on sound to light mode and they're just spinning, and sometimes they're pointing behind you. And who's that for? Nobody. They can't really see that. It's not enhancing the dance floor in any way. It's not really doing a whole lot for us. So we want to set the limitations and tell it where it can point. Now, this is all detailed in the instructions, so make sure you follow that precisely, but it is essentially you hold the top button and move it until you find your light pointing at the floor. The same for the bottom until it's pointing at the ceiling. And you grab the left one and do it until your light points perfectly to the left, and the right one until it points to the right. Now once these limitations are set, it enables you to focus your lights on the dance floor. Now for now, I'm just going to set them back to it because we're just using this for demonstration purposes, but setting those limitations allows you to get the most out of your light show, and kind of brings them all together in a much more cohesive way. Now, I've discussed the majority of what we've got in here. One thing I would like to talk about, we've got up here the auto mode. Now, you might not always want these to be running presets that you've designed. You might just want them to be chugging along, doing their own thing. So to do that, you'd simply click it on auto and we can pop it into low, medium, or hot. Now, these are gonna keep running the gobos, I've told it, so I'm gonna turn the gobo off, back to a nice spot. And that's running in low mode, which you can tell is quite a slow movement. Maybe for kind of dancey, chill out songs, you'd slow dance songs that is, you'd put this kind of feature on. Now you might notice that these are moving slightly out of sync, so to correct that I would just go to shift, I'll put that down to 0, and you can see they're now nicely in sync. And you can do the same for medium, which is going to create a medium kind of energy show, and hot, which is going to create a high energy show using quite a lot of fast movement, which is the kind of thing you would have over kind of high octane dance music. The last thing to think about and look at is the ways in which we allow these lights to react. Now I discussed earlier that we can have it in time signature mode based on a BPM, we can have it running via sound to light, we can also have it running connected to Ableton Link. Now what Ableton Link is it's a link protocol programmed into the majority of DJ and performance software that's out there, and it allows this software to talk to your DJ software to then stay in time with your tracks that you're playing kind of live, so you don't have to worry too much about the time, which is a great feature and well worth looking into. The final thing we'll look at is how to set up and design your own preset. Now let's for a second say that for the first dance, we'll tell these boys to stop. For the first dance, I want my moving heads to point at a couple in the middle of the dance floor, and I want my park hands to do some nice colour fades on some nice romantic colours. So for the first step, I head to my colour wheel, and I'm going to select a nice colour for both of them. I think we'll go, there we go. So we'll go this shade of purpley pink, which is nice, and we're going to put the moving spots onto a purple and a blue, and then I'm going to head into my speed. I'm going to turn the speed quite down. I'm going to put the fade all the way up. Now these lights are now fading nicely in and out of the colors that we've got. You can see that's going around. If I had multiple ones of those lights, it's going to create a moving wash around my dance floor. The next step is for me to find my moving heads and get them to point in the right direction. Now there are multiple ways of doing this. The first way is in this little section here. If I click on this arrow button, I can move my moving heads based on where I am on this grid. Now it does get quite complicated to control your lights via this. So I've got one pointing in the right direction, but then I might find that this one's pointing in the complete wrong direction, and when I click over there, they both go over there. So I find the best way to actually get them pointing exactly where you want them is to head back over to the fixture mode. Now if I head to my inner pocket spot, overtake the pan and point it in the right direction, overtake the tilt and point it down. In fact, what we'll do is, so you can see it, we'll point it behind us. So I'll come over here and we'll turn this one around, and there we go. We've got a nice circle spot there. I'm then going to click on my fusion spot, and I'm going to do the exact same, move it around, use the pan to bring it down, and there we go. We've got those two spots on top of each other, pointed at our couple in the middle of the dance floor. I can then head back over to live, and to save this as a recurrable, recallable preset, I simply hover over any one of these preset buttons, hold it down, and it gives me the option to name it. Now I'm going to name it First Dance. I'm going to save the preset, and now you'll notice that preset 18 has changed to First Dance. Now if I go back to preset 8 or 14, these presets don't exist actually, so if I go back to preset 3, it's doing its thing, it's going back into the light show. If I go back to the First Dance preset, it's launched back into that preset, so it's recallable at any point. So I can design these presets and build them up as I build my shows, and then each time I go to a new show, I've got all the presets that I've done before, completely recallable. Now I believe we've covered the basics and the majority of the content on here. One thing to note is that you can get a nice little help file by simply clicking on the word MyDMX Go, and it gives you a nice little blue outline and tells you what does what in the app, which is great. And the very last feature to look at is the strobe button on the side. Just like we've got the dimmer on the left, I can hold that and make my light strobe, and I can set the rate of that strobe. That's the majority of what we're going to talk about for today. It is a great bit of software. It's available for just over £170 via our website. If you did want any more advice on it, you can always call our showroom and ask any questions you might have. As always, if you like, dislike if you dislike, chuck us a comment in the comment section, and as always, get in the mix.